Prayer for our meeting. If you would, please silence your mobile devices, laptops, whatever may go off. Is that pronounced Idimunda? Idamunda. 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 Okay.
You must be related to my nurse practitioner. Ms. I, as I call her. She's a nurse practitioner down here on Westmore Avenue.
Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Well,
At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, January 10th, 2023 at the city council chambers, 201 East Nash Street in Terrell, Texas. We have with us tonight District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem. District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. District 5, Andrea Reese. And not with us, but excused, is District 2, Grady Simpson. We do have a quorum, so we may continue with our meeting. Our first item on the agenda is to invocation. Mike, would you mind, and what I would like to say before we start our prayer is that we are beginning, this is the first meeting for a sesquicentennial year, and so we want to be mindful of that as we meet, and I pray that the council is responsive to the needs of the city for 2023. So, Mike, if you would please lead us into prayer and also remain standing as we do the pledges.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the blessings that you've given us. We thank you that we are in a country that's free, where we can gather and praise your name and seek your guidance before this official meeting. We thank you that you have blessed this city so many ways over so many years, and we pray for your blessings in the years to come. We pray, dear Lord, that as all the items come forward for consideration, that the hearts and minds of all of us working on these projects will be turned toward you and seek your wisdom so that we can have unity and peace, patience and love between all of us. And we thank you for this day again, because you're a great God. You gave us your Son, Jesus Christ, to be our Savior. We pray that you'd help us all to accept that and be a light in this world. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Our next item on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. So throughout the year, this being our sesquicentennial year, the mayor would like to give a little bit of trivia about our city and/or just some neat things that might have occurred in 1873. So what I learned here recently, and I'll ask the question, is what does TCU and Terrell have in common? Does anybody know? We're both celebrating 150 years. They were established in 1873 as well, so just a little tidbit about what was going on back then. And Allison and I will be working on different information about the city as we move forward. Does anybody have any remarks or comments, recognitions?
Yes, I want to remind everybody of the annual celebration, the Martin Luther King celebration put on by I'm going to not say their entire name, organization name correctly, so forgive me, but the Martin Luther King celebration, and the celebration this year will be on Tuesday, January the 17th at 6 p.m. at the Performing Arts Center. And the majority of their proceeds, from my understanding, go to support scholarships for Terrell High School students who wish to pursue higher education.
So I need to also speak to that event. Because of the council request to attend some of that program, we're going to delay our next Tuesday meeting from 6 to 7 p.m. So we won't start our Tuesday meeting until 7 p.m. to give the mayor and the council and whoever else might want to attend an opportunity to go and show support to not only the school district, but for the program. So just mark your calendars for that. Anyone else? All right, our next item on the agenda is to hear remarks from visitors. We do have two. The first one is Ezekiel Adamunda, right? Adamundia? Adamundia, okay. Yes, please come forward and give us your address, and then you may speak.
My name is Ezekiel Adamundia. My address is 134 Redwood Lane by Forest Creek, by the high school and elementary. So what I wanted to mention is I would think it'd be really beneficial for the city to get a disc golf course at Ben Gill Park. If you're not sure what disc golf is, it's a sport that has been growing a lot in recent years. There's a course in Rockwall, there's a course in Mesquite. Terrell is like the perfect spot to have a nice course, because with the sport, like, it's growing a lot, like it brings a lot of visitors and people to our town, and also with it being at Ben Gill Park or maybe the old golf course potentially, that it's like a rotating neighborhood to watch, because people are always coming in and playing it literally throughout the whole year. So I think it'd be a really big benefit for us to consider building one. It's inexpensive, it's easy maintenance. If you all need help with designing the course or anything, I can do that and figure it out and help with that. I'd love to do whatever I can to get the course set up in Terrell.
Okay, thank you. As with all of these remarks to the mayor and the council, it's not a back and forth, it's just for us to get the information, and then we'll have staff reach out to you.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. We also have Sean Valk, if you would please come forward.
Sean Volk.
Valk, sorry.
Yes, Sean Volk, 1450 South Teal, Townsend, Rockwall, Texas, 75032. Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Sean Volk, and we bought some property at 15457 Highway 205, Terrell, Texas, 8.5 acres of land. It's in the ETJ, and we had a meeting with staff, a pre-submittal meeting with staff on March 29th, 2022. We bought the land June 3rd of 2022. Developments in the ETJ, from what I understand, in Kaufman and Terrell, requires that the city has control over the plating. So we made application for plat August 29th of 2022. We had a DRC meeting September 27th of 2022. And from that point going forward, we haven't really had any communication or contact from the city or the staff. Our main point of contact has been Omaira Mata. We haven't heard from her until this morning. We reached out to her, sent her an email, and then I told my staff, go ahead and send the city managers an email and see what you hear. And then within 2 hours, we got an email from Omaira Mata with a long list of comments. No plans, just comments. No response from the city manager's office. And then through October, November, part of December, I emailed back, or I didn't email back and forth, but I emailed Derek Hill with the fire department because he had some comments. I have never heard from him still to this day from November. And so we're kind of at a loss. We do a lot of development, and we think that we're pretty astute developers, and we've never had it where a city just doesn't respond to us. They're non-responsive. You know, we've spent, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 getting to the point that we're at. We bought $1 million piece of property, and we can't get any response from the city. And so it's difficult to move forward and develop if you're given one point of contact. City manager's office won't respond, fire department won't respond, city staff won't respond. I mean, we want to develop in the city. It's in the ETJ, but we want to develop in the community. We want to take and do things that are going to be beneficial not only for the community, the city. So I don't know. We're kind of at a loss. We're going to follow up tomorrow with the city manager's office. The only next step that I have is employing an attorney to find out what our rights are. I don't think it should be that difficult. We just are trying to move forward. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow with our engineers based upon the comments that came back today. Small stuff like the city of Terrell has a list of requirements that is required with respect to plating. And Derek Hill, I emailed him multiple times asking about clarification about that because they're trying to enforce fire regs on us that they're not allowed to based upon a third-party consultant that I hired. I hired a fire consultant to have him run through the details and what we need to do. And he agreed with us and our understanding that the city of Terrell wasn't allowed to enforce those. And it's based on an interlocal agreement that the city has with Kaufman County. So we're trying to do all the right things and make all the right steps. I just don't know. I'm not even sure this is the right forum, but you guys are obviously leaders in the city and it runs down. So there you go. Thank you for listening to me.
No, thank you. Thank you for your comments. We'll have staff reach out to you.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes. Item 6.1, discuss and consider the minutes from the special city council meeting and workshop on December the 28th of 2022. Council, is there a motion on item 6.1?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from the special city council meeting and workshop hosted on December 8th of 2022 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve the minutes of the workshop on December the 28th of 2022 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.1, public hearing. Greg, would you read that into the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item 7.1, we are to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding the issuance and sale of City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and waterworks and sewer system limited pledge revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2023A, including the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of such certificates of obligation.
So this is going to be Hilltop Securities, or is someone here with them?
Yeah.
Okay. Marty? Yes. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Marty Shu with Hilltop Securities. We represent the city as your financial advisor. We're here tonight to present the results of the sale of the bonds for you. So there are two series of bonds before you. Okay, perfect. Sure. I was just going to talk through it all. Before on your agenda, there are two items for your approval tonight regarding the ordinance of the bonds. So there's two series of bonds. We put together a summary of the details which kind of cover both items of your agenda, and I guess you have a public hearing for both of those.
Okay.
Council will be, while she works on that, I'll just kind of mention for council that these are the role you normally see played by Jason Hughes. I think we have upgraded, and Marty is carrying this for Jason tonight, so I appreciate you joining with us here. So.
No, thank you for allowing me to be here. I won't tell Jason that it's an upgrade. We'll make him feel better about it. So you may recall that council approved a notice of intent to issue the COs back on November 8th. This is effectively just the final step of the bond issuance process. So you published your notice to issue those COs, and then the bonds were actually priced in the market today. And by adopting the ordinance, you're effectively accepting the pricing results and locking the interest rates into place. So since the notice of intent was published as part of the normal bond issuance process, the city did have to apply for and purchase a bond rating. I am pleased to report that Standard & Poor's, so the city staff did have to sit down with Standard & Poor's or S&P Global. They answered a lot of questions and provided a lot of information so that they could conduct a full credit assessment on the city. And I'm pleased to report that they did affirm the AA- credit rating of the city. We've included the summary for you so you can see all of the different notching or rating categories that there are. And I think it's very significant to note that at the AA- level, you can see there are only 3 rating notches above you till you get to a perfect score. So you're in a very elite category of ratings, and you should be very pleased and proud of that. And the credit ratings of the city are very important. They're just like our own personal credit ratings. So the higher your own personal credit rating, when you go to buy a car or apply for a mortgage, you get a lower interest rate. Same holds true for the city. The higher your credit rating, the lower your cost of borrowing. So on the next page, we have hit the highlights of each issue. So as I mentioned, 2 series of bonds. Series A and Series B. The only difference between the two is the nature of the projects and the tax status. So your Series A bonds are tax-exempt bonds that were issued to produce $3.15 million of project proceeds. And your final true interest cost, or TIC, on those is a 4.07%. The taxable COs, again, just the difference in the nature of projects because the city has a number of water supply contracts in place. Debt that's issued for water has to be taxable. So hence there was a higher interest rate. So your final true interest cost, TIC, came in at a 5.32%. The strong favorable credit rating of the city is directly tied to these favorable interest rates. If you've been following the headlines, you know we've had a lot of volatility as of late in our market. We are in what we consider a rising interest rate environment. I've seen rates spike upward well above this over the last year. So even effectively last week, I think your bonds would have priced 10 to 20 basis points higher than they did today. So excellent timing. There's a little bit of rally that you were able to take advantage of. We have included the breakdown of the sources and uses of funds for you so you can see the costs associated with the issue. And then the next page illustrates the debt service schedule or the full repayment schedule. That gives you the translation of that interest rate into actual dollars over the life of the issue. The 2 series of bonds were structured so that together they produce equal or level annual payments over the course of a 30-year period. And we've also included in the packet the full rating write-up. So as part of that rating, the rating agency does publish a full rating report. I do recommend that you read that. It covers all the metrics and assessment metrics that they use to assess the city. And I'll just note that they do highlight the good management and strong financial flexibility of the city. So again, we think you should be pleased with the results. As I mentioned, this is the final step, so by effectively adopting those ordinances, you are accepting these interest rates. The bonds will then go to the Attorney General for their approval, and the closing or the delivery of funds, you'll receive them on February 16th. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Marty?
Thank you for being here today and presenting this to us. I may not be interpreting this right, but it looks like there's 10 tiers when we look at the ratings. So when I look at that, we're about 70%. Just looking at that, I know we have about 40 million coming in. We're spending 40 million. What would you think a short-term goal that we should have to help increase our rating? And then give me a long-term goal, something we can be doing when we look at the next budget.
You know, honestly, it's time that you're in a very elite category, and, you know, so much of the area, we're seeing large influx of population and growth. So wealth and income levels, as they continue to grow over time, is going to attribute to your moves as quickly. You're doing everything from a management perspective to qualify you in the elite category that you're in. So a lot of what's going to happen to move you up is going to be just time and growth as you continue to manage that growth, and just keep doing what you're doing, managing that growth, is what will continue to keep you notching upward. Everybody wants that illustrious perfect score. And I will say there's, to give you an idea, there's really, and I think Standard & Poor's probably has more than some of the other rating agencies, but I think there's probably like 30 in the state of Texas cities, roughly. That's an estimate because I don't have the figure with me. But, and a lot of those are very large in size.
One more question. With the companies you represent and your history in doing this, are there cities that do have higher ratings? I'm not gonna put you on the spot, but even if you need to reach out to me, I'd like to know what kind of cities in the area in Texas, people you represent that do have higher ratings. I'd like to look at, you know, some things that they're doing.
Sure, absolutely. The good news is we have all of that data at our fingertips, so we can put together a good analysis for you that can show you kind of where you are in relation to your peers and other ones. There are, of course, different cities in the categories above you, and we can pull out all of that data for you and provide you some good metrics.
Thank you so much. I'm an overachiever.
No
Come to
problem.
finance.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much. So this is a public hearing. At this time, we will open the public hearing and receive comments regarding the issuance of the sale of the City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and Waterworks and Sewer System Limited Pledge. Is there anyone to speak on this issue? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.2. Greg?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 2950, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and Waterworks and Sewer System Limited Pledge Revenue Certificates of Obligation Series 2023A, specifying the terms and features of said certificates, providing for the payment of said certificates of obligation by the levy of an ad valorem tax upon all taxable property within the city, and a limited pledge of the net reserves derived from the operation of the city's waterworks and sewer system, providing the terms and features of such certificates and resolving other matters incident and relating to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of said certificates, including the approval and execution of a paying agent/registrar agreement and a purchase agreement, and the approval and distribution of an official statement pertaining thereto, and providing an effective date.
So, council, you know, in Ms. Shue's words, we're in an elite category as far as where we are rating-wise. Thank you to our staff, our city manager, and all of those that are involved, and to you for giving direction to the city as we move forward. This could have been a lot worse, you know, the percentages. So I'm pleased with it. Yeah, we would like to be higher. We always shoot and strive for better, but overall, just good news, I think. So does anybody have any comments or questions or need to discuss Anything further? Okay. Is there this is discussion and consider, so what would we need to do, Greg?
To, a motion
Approval?
to approve the ordinance as presented, Mr.
Yep.
Mayor.
Okay. There's no ordinance number, is there?
2950, Mr. Mayor.
So this is, we're acting on 2950. Is that what you have? Yes.
7.2?
No, the ordinance number, please read that into the record.
2950.
2950.
It's right there.
Oh, up there, okay.
So, is there a motion on 7.2?
Motion to approve ordinance 2950.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2950. Again, these are revenue certificates of obligation, Series 2023A. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.3. Greg?
Mr. Mayor, we are to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding the issuance and sale of City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and Waterworks and Sewer Limited Pledge Revenue Certificates of Obligation, taxable series 2023B, including the adoption of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of such certificates of obligation.
Again, Ms. Shushu already left, but she presented both of them in her presentation, so we should be good.
Mayor, yes, and Dawn, maybe you could feel free to put that back up, just so council can take a look at that summary page again.
It's almost like your mouse is not working on it, isn't it?
Okay, well, no, we're good. No, we're good. I think everyone saw, right? Everybody saw it. So this is a public hearing, so at this time, we will conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding the issuance of the sale of the City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and Waterworks and Sewer System Revenue Certificates of Obligation, taxable series 2023B. Is there anyone to speak on this item? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.4, if you would, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we bring to you tonight ordinance number 2951, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of City of Terrell, Texas combination tax and Waterworks and Sewer System Limited Pledge Revenue Certificates of Obligation, taxable series 2023B, specifying the terms and features of said certificates, providing for the payment of said certificates of obligation by the levy of an ad valorem tax upon all taxable property within the city, and a limited pledge of the net reserves derived from the operation of the city's waterworks and sewer system, providing the terms and features of such certificates and resolving other matters instant and related to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of said certificates, including the approval and execution of a paying agent / registrar agreement and a purchase agreement, and the approval and distribution of an official statement pertaining thereto, and providing an effective date.
Okay, as with the non-taxable Series 2023A, the taxable Series 2023B was good news as well, as far as I'm concerned. Does anybody have any other comments about it? This is going to be ordinance number 2951. 2951. Is there a motion on ordinance number 2951?
Motion to approve ordinance number 2951 as presented.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to move forward with the issuance of the certificates of obligation for taxable series 2023B. Is there any further comments? Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.5. Greg.
Mr. Mayor, Item 7.5 is to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a proposed voluntary annexation of approximately 1,098 acres of real property located within the extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city of Terrell.
All right, this is going to be presented by John Godwin. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will try to be fairly brief on this. You've heard about an awful lot of this already. This is when we had the annexation schedule. This is a voluntary annexation of almost 1,100 acres. The values to annexation are kind of obvious. These are areas in which you can have a significant amount of increased control over the quality of development, the type of development. In this case, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I'm going to also come back to you and talk to you about 7.8, I think it is, the zoning issue. But there's going to be a variety of types of uses, different types of sizes of residential units and so forth. In this case, we're not ready to act on the annexation tonight because we still are working on the development agreement. I think last week maybe the council authorized the city manager to continue negotiations for the development agreement, which is the big document that guides all of this, puts these things together and determines the obligations for both parties. In this case, it's Centurion American, to remind you, that's building this area and that owns it. And so this gives them the opportunity to, with the TERS that you've approved back a couple of months ago, it funds infrastructure. So this is an area that's completely empty right now. There's no houses, there's no nothing, there's just vacant land, which is not a bad thing. But in this case, instead of someone developing it however they want to, once it's annexed into the city, you have the ability to do a development agreement, which we're still working on, and you have the ability to require certain things. And that's going to bring in roads and I've mentioned before that the city manager is very good at making sure that when development happens, that roads go with it, but not just roads that serve that property, but connect to the whole thing. As an example, Las Lomas Parkway will connect to new developments to the north of Interstate 20. And as a quick reminder, this is, and you can probably see on here, this is south of I-20 on both sides of 148, southwest part of town. And then you can see here in this drawing too that this is that up and down white line there. That's Las Lomas Parkway. It'll go all the way through to the south end of the property, so it'll at some point connect in there. Another big feature here is on the far left side of this drawing is the future outer loop. This is where it'll come through there, and so we're getting dedication of easements for both of those roads. And in the case of Las Lomas Parkway, because it's construction by the developer of that road, there'll also be improvements to 148, and you can see the different land uses there. So that's, again, I said I wasn't going to get ahead of myself, but I did. But we're here at this point. We're just talking about annexations. The development agreement needs to be completed, and the mayor's been authorized to execute that agreement once it's completed. We think it'll be complete fairly soon. We've gone through about 14,000 iterations of it so far because it's just really important to the city, and it's really important to the developer to get it right. They want a quality development that they can make money off of, and the city wants a quality development period, that makes the community a more higher quality community. So we continue to meet assiduously. I met with the city manager Thursday, Friday, and yesterday. We're meeting again on Thursday with the developers live. We met with them online last week. So it's a very, very intense, very ongoing process. So I think we're getting close to that. And so I think, unless you have any questions, I know this is a public hearing, so I'll just step aside in case anybody wants to give any testimony to the council for the public hearing.
Okay. Let's open up the public hearing first, and then if we have any comments, then we can clarify with John afterward, Mr. Godwin afterward. So at this time, we will open up the public hearing and receive comments regarding the proposed voluntary annexation of approximately 1,098 acres of real property located within the ETJ of the city of Terrell. Is there anyone here to speak on this matter? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing and move on to item 7.6.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, item 7.6 is to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding amending Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell, Article 3, zoning districts, Section 23, manufactured home MH district, Article 4, use regulations, Section 32.2, use charts, and Article 5, development standards, Section 44, definitions.
Okay. And this is going to be handled by our municipal development analyst, Omara Mata. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me present to you guys tonight. On the agenda, we have the wonderful zoning ordinance, a couple of updates that we are proposing to you. This did go before the Planning and Zoning Commission last night. It did get a 7-0 vote to recommend approval to you guys. So I just kind of want to walk you guys through it, let you know what we're doing, and then I will answer any questions if you have any. So to start, I have the manufactured home district that we are going to be updating the existing standards. There is a little bit of cleanup that we did here. And so what we want to do is we kind of want to clean up any kind of sanitation, fire access, and emergency access with the existing manufactured home district. So what we did to this district is we kind of cleaned it up and mimicked the 7.5 residential district, which is a district that we have gotten a lot of favorable for. For example, the current lot size on the MH district is 4,500 square feet. We're proposing that it moves up to 7,500 square feet, same as our SF 7.5. And another simple example is the road size. Right now it's a 24-foot, and we propose for it to be 31 plus sidewalks. So those are just simple things, and we can, you can see the red line version there included as well. The next section that we're talking about is the use charts. This is really an update for three things. We're updating hospitals, schools, and party rental facilities. So I'm going to break those down. For the hospitals and schools, those really go hand in hand together. What we're doing there is we are cleaning up from changing the P, which is a permitted use, and changing it to an S, which does require a specific use permit. The reason for that is because we know a lot of developments coming in. We love schools, we love hospitals. However, we do have a lot of traffic situation and emergency vehicle situation. So we want to get a specific use permit there ahead of time. So when that does come up, they can come in, talk to staff. We can work through those things and then get those built. So that really is the only reason we're changing those. In regards to the party rental facility, that is something that we had approached by a community member that wants to put a business in town, and it really right now is a temporary use, which really doesn't make sense when you have a wedding venue per se. If you have a wedding every Saturday and Sunday, you have to come in right now and apply for a permit. So that is something that we talked to them, and we are changing those two Ps to kind of give them that use, that they can put a business there, kind of be like a wedding rental facility, that kind of use. And then our last session is going to be the definitions. That is really just kind of cleanup and grammatical in that area. There were a lot of words that were not put in the correct order alphabetically, and they didn't mimic the actual use chart. So when you go in and try to use the zoning ordinance, there were a lot of just spending time trying to actually find what the real definition is. So if you go through the red line, it really is just kind of cleaning up that wording and kind of doing that.
I think we discussed cleaning this up before, right? And what was going to take place. I guess my question to you, Omar, did you change anything that you haven't already discussed with the council previously?
No, sir. Everything in here is
everything
going
that
to
you
be
said that you were going to clean up.
correct.
To P and Z, and that then their vote was 7-0
Yes,
in
sir.
favor of all the changes.
Yes, sir. The one thing I did want to mention is right now, this is just kind of a cleanup that we did. We will be bringing forward a major zoning update, hopefully in the summer at some point. That's going to be more of getting a cleanup of the entire zoning ordinance. This is really just those three sections.
Okay. All right, good. Does anybody have any questions for, this is a, what item are we on?
This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing, so I guess, really, Omara, let's open up the public hearing. If we don't have anybody to say, to speak, I would like the council to have an opportunity to ask you some questions.
Yes,
okay?
sir. Absolutely.
Let's do the public hearing. This time, we're going to open up the public hearing to receive comments regarding amending Appendix 2, zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell, Article 3, zoning district, Section 23, manufactured home District Article 4, Use Regulations, Section 32.2, Use Charts, and Article 5, Development Standards, Section 44, Definitions. Is there anyone to speak on behalf of these changes in the zoning ordinances? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Omar, if you would please come forward again. Council, does anybody have any questions for Omar? Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Mara, again, thank you for coming to present to us tonight. Where would one of these manufactured home areas be, if you had to give me the area that this can occur?
We currently do not have any zoning existing inside the city limits, but it is a zoning that is in our zoning district and it is, or in our zoning ordinance, so it could be possible that someone comes in, for example, applies for a zone change or any kind of new land that they would want to do MH zoning.
So right now, we currently don't even have that.
Not inside the city limits.
There's a handful of land uses that we have defined in the zoning ordinance that just have never been applied to any particular piece of land. But to comply with state law, we have to make sure that we have allowances for people to do different things. And one of the things we have out there is mobile homes. And whenever we were reviewing our document this time around, we realized that it's been, over a decade since we really addressed mobile home standards. And we said, well, let's take a shot at doing this time around on cleanup. And it's really up to an applicant to say, hey, I'd like to come in and put a mobile home facility at, such and such particular location. So anything would go back to the Planning and Zoning Board. It would be advertised. It'd be a public hearing, and folks would have an opportunity to comment on it during that process.
I'm still probably the only one here on this council that don't want to eliminate different housing opportunities. As far as it is, I don't live the same way I lived when I was 30, when I was 25. I want to make sure, I'm sure I'm going to live differently when I'm 80, 75. So I just was wondering if we had, we have the ordinance, but did we have anything designated for that, or are we just complying to the law, making sure we address it? But I don't want a cookie cutter approach. We already have a lot of 7.5s. And that's all. I'm just thinking in the future, new graduates, different people, and I know I'm probably the only one that wants those different choices. In life, we want to be able to live, do better, excel, succeed, and see that growth. But I don't know all the time if we allow that opportunity. But that's just my stance. I still believe it, and I just wanted to ask you that to see where those are, because I was going to go look at those areas.
Okay. So I think what the councilwoman is addressing is that we have options within the city. I think that's a good thing too. However, we need to have regulations so that we make sure that those standard of living is the same for everybody. And that's the goal here, I think, is to make sure that we have the right ordinance that would oversee that, right? Or codes, whatever it may be.
Yes, sir. And one thing I will point out, this is really mimicking, you still can put a mobile home on the property. Our main goal here was to go back and kind of address those for example, parking on the street, making sure that there's adequate space on the street for 2 cars to be there and make sure there's enough, space around the area. So you still can put a mobile home on the property. There's just a little bit modifications to mimic that 7.5 standards.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes, Omira, I want to make sure I clearly understand the section, the 1A residential zoning district for private party wedding rental facility. Because I look through the red lining, there's a whole graph, and I'm on the online document. I'm showing it to be the online agenda. I'm showing page 129. Let me see at the bottom. Yeah, 129 of 297. Previous to this page, I did see the entire graph, the table that has a red line, but this specific page here when I look at private party wedding rental facility, I see that specific use permit is what's listed for private wedding rental facilities, but correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I heard you say that the attempt was to change from SUP to a permitted by right in specific zonings, which I don't see reflected in the table. Is that accurate?
No, ma'am. It was currently as it stands today, it is a temporary. So if we look into the temporary uses in the charts, that is a T for the temporary uses. We're wanting to move it over to the page that you pointed out, 127, no, not 127.
129.
The 129, and put it under the non-residential zoning districts and make sure that we have the S's on there. The reason for the S's is so when the business is opening and it's new, we can do a specific use permit that does go through planning and zoning, city council, and then that way it gets approved. But from then on, they will be able to potentially, have a event every night of the week.
Think of the temporary use permit as you can only do it a certain number of times per year. And so we limit the total number of times that you can do it. If we move it from a temporary, where you ask each time and there's a limit on the total number of uses, it'd be really hard to invest in a building and think that you were only going to be able to use it so many days per year. And every time you use it, you have to ask the city staff for permission. Our thought was better to move it from T to S so that they could come in, they could show P and Z one time, here's how we're going to organize this to make the parking safe and all the setup safe and, all of the nuances of actually running the business. And then we say, okay, great, it goes to P and Z, goes to city council, you have your approval, and then you would be willing to invest in it because you know that that right stays with you for a lengthy period of time.
I'm gonna try this one more time. So, looking at the tables again, in the residential zoning district, we are leaving, looks like an ag and TX here, we're leaving special use permit, which would be on page 118. So we're still leaving special use permit in some areas of residential zoning for the facilities.
S for special use permit, not T.
Right, and
Yeah.
then in the non-residential area is where we're making sure that they're also SUP. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you for the clarification.
So they would follow the same process whether they were in
Right, it's
Wherever they
just
are.
consistent now, yeah.
so rather than having to come back and get, rather than being limited to how many times they can have a party or, a wedding or whatever venue, they can get one time. Would that be annually? Is that the permit? They come back
The
annually?
SUP can set a time period. An SUP might say 12 months, an SUP might say 5 years, an SUP might be open-ended. It's really dependent upon the discretion of P&Z and City Council as to how you want to handle each individual SUP.
And the other thing, when there's special use permits, you can pull that also if they're in violation of something, right?
Right, so we've had the instance before where we gave somebody a list of 7 or 8 requirements in an SUP. They failed to meet those requirements, and they were, they just didn't proceed as a business because they didn't do the checklist.
Right. And usually safety issues, public.
Yeah, the
Safety, yeah.
one I have in mind was all about 18-wheeler traffic
Yeah, right.
safety.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have any more questions for Omar? Again, no? Anyone? All right, thank you.
Well, Mayor,
Yes.
before, so I want to clarify, the mobile homes that are, I think it's Texas Bank and Trust off of Highway 80, are those considered is it the proper term for manufactured homes, and they're in an area, I guess I'd have to pull up, the zoning map to figure out kind of where they exist. And I hear what you're saying, Greg, that they're already in existing, but to understand, they're still manufactured homes, and
Correct.
would you guess, is that a residential or commercial? Or? right
Well,
now?
let me just clarify something we said previously. There's no undeveloped land zone mobile home right now.
Right.
There's also a legal distinction between defining something as an RV park for recreational vehicles and something as a manufactured home being anchored, permanent, blah, 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 and hard to pick up, RV having wheels. So you got to separate your definitions there as well. But the point that we're making is there's no vacant land zoned this right now. Since I got here in 2008, we haven't had anybody come forward to say, hey, I would like to change this piece of land from being ag or something else to mobile home. I don't know that we actually have any of that on the radar screen, but the thought was, let's bring up our mobile home standards to be more similar to some of the other places where we think we've solved some of our parking on the street problems and fire lane problems and that sort of thing. If you go through the details of that, there's a provision in there related to like tornado safety and that sort of thing. So not trying to be punitive, just trying to be updated and safe and clarify traffic problems, so. Totally up to an applicant to come in.
According
yeah.
to Mr. Rogers, that mobile home park area, there used to be a drive-in out there as well. For those that don't know it. Isn't that right, Steve?
Even a projectionist at that theater.
Where you-
I'll have you.
Yeah, okay. Now, anybody have any more questions for Mr. Mata, Ms. Mata? Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda? Is it discuss and consider ordinance number?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you already read that in?
I'll read it right now, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we'll bring to you tonight ordinance number 2953, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas, amending Appendix 2 zoning ordinance of the City of Terrell, Article 3 zoning districts, Section 23 manufactured home MH district, Article 4 use regulations, Section 32.2 use charts, and Article 5 development standards, Section 44 definitions as set forth in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof for all purposes, providing for severability and providing an effective date. And this comes to you tonight on first reading.
So does anybody have any further questions or comments? All right, is there a motion on item 7.7? Ordinance number 2953.
Motion to approve ordinance number 2953 as presented.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to approve ordinance number 2953 as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 7.8. Greg?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Item 7.8 is to conduct a public hearing to receive comments regarding a planned development, single-family, executive estates, multifamily research and technology park, and highway corridor, PD, SF, EEMF, RTHC based zoning on 1,098.59 acres of land, City of Terrell, Kaufman County, Texas. The property is located southeast of Interstate 20, south of CR 305, and west of FM 2578, and north of FM 987. The property is currently in the City of Terrell ETJ. The property will be developed into a mixed-use residential and business park and highway commercial with a variety of uses.
All right, Mr. Godwin.
Thank you. Very quickly, this is the zoning. You've seen this before. This has gone to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They've made a recommendation to you. You can see the phases that are in there. This is actually owned by 3 different property owners at this point. The original owner, Centurion American, has sold that large, I don't know, silvery blue piece up at the top, 177 acres to a light industrial warehouse developer, and then at least a portion of the retail over on the top right, the northeast, is to a company who we don't even know the name. It's got some silly pretend-like name right now. And the rest of it's been retained by these guys. But the development agreement will cover all of this, and the zoning will cover all of this as well. The zoning, in fact, will be just one of many attachments to the development agreement that will finally be approved. I mentioned a few minutes ago that we were working on this assiduously. I like that word because it makes me sound smart, but or at least I hope. actually, I've gotten documents while I've been waiting for my next turn. So that's how quickly this is moving finally. Developers sometimes want to get their way a little too much. You can see here it's got the 5 different sizes of lots, talking about different sizes of lots. This goes from 40 feet lots all the way up to half-acre lots. It includes the Arboretum, it includes a nature preserve, it includes a couple of parks, it includes a site for a school, probably an elementary school, but that's not up to us. But we just want to make sure that they gave 16 acres for a school. There's also a place there for an EMS, likely an EMS station. They kept calling it public safety, but it'd be no, I'm sorry, not EMS, fire station. It's always good to have a fire station, a park, and a school all together. That's something I copied from the city of Allen years ago. They tried to put all 3 of those together. It's a great combination. And I think that's all I have to say about the zoning. Again, I think you're pretty familiar with it, and you can look at that map for yourself. This is a really good project, and we're really excited about it. And I could go on for a long time, but I won't. I promise. It's a really good deal. And again, as I mentioned earlier with the annexation thing, it's currently outside the city. You can't control it. You're not getting any tax revenue off of it, and there's the potential for far worse things to get built there. We're not ready to approve this tonight because you cannot legally annex property that's not been. You can't zone property that you have not yet annexed, and since we're not annexing it tonight, we're not going to zone it tonight. But we do want to have the public hearing, so if anyone has a need or a desire to question or comment during the public hearing, that's why this is on here. And in the meantime,
so John, I'll just kind of throw in a sort of expectations for council about what's next. On your January 31st agenda, we're going to be inviting Hilltop, your financial advisor, back, along with P3, who's your consultant that helps us with our tax increment refinance zones, and then our bond attorney team as well. And they'll be taking you through what do you do when you create a public improvement district in a newly annexed area like this that's designed to assist in the overall infrastructure costs of the project. How does the bonding on that work? How does the borrowing on that work? All of that's a rather complicated issue. So we're going to get a briefing from our financial team about that on January 31st. Right around that same time, we'll see a public improvement district petition come in. We will have vetted that before it gets to you, and we'll need to do a public hearing associated with the public improvement district. And then we'll redo our annexation opportunity to discuss and consider in the zoning. So the goal is sometime in February, in theory, we'll come back to you again, and we'll have 3 different things all on the same city council agenda: annexation, approval of a public improvement district, and zoning. And all 3 of those will be lined out, we hope, in February. But as John said, it's really up to finalizing some of the negotiations, and we hope to be there in a timely manner.
Thank you, John. So this is a public hearing. This time, Mayor will open up the public hearing to consider any comments regarding this development. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of or against? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. And does council have any questions for Mr. Godwin on this? We've seen it before. Nope. Okay. Next item on the agenda is 8.1, discuss and consider park board appointment. Don?
Mayor
Is that right?
Council, in your packet is the park board roster. Currently, Caitlin Craven needs to be replaced on that board, and I passed out earlier a volunteer application for Carolyn Brown that is not included in the packet, and this is under the oversight of Mayrani Velasquez.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mayrani?
At this time, I'd motion to appoint Caroline Brown to serve as a park board member.
All right, thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayrani Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, and a second from Andrea Reese, District 5, to appoint Ms. Brown to our park board. Is there any further discussion?
I would like to notate that Ms. Caroline Brown would have liked to be here at tonight's meeting. She has resided in Terrell for a handful of years here recently and has been a regular member of the Stallings Addition Neighborhood Association, has been vocal and been involved with our fire department, with our police department, with our parks, utility departments, as there have been concerns that have been brought forward, or those departments, along with myself and city manager and mayor, that have done some work and had conversations with the Stallings Addition neighbors. So I'm excited that she is more than willing to serve at this time, and we do have another park board member that's getting ready to complete finishing out her service. That's allowed to her on the park board. So this will be essentially a replacement of a current Stallings Addition neighborhood member.
Wonderful. We always encourage all those that want to participate and be involved in city to do so. She is also a TCU graduate, not Terrell Christian, Terrell Citizens University, not the other, the one that was Texas Christian, yeah. So is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.1, discuss library update. This is our library IT director, Rebecca Anderson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was going to present a very short presentation, but Mr. Rogers is here, and he really likes for me to be detailed and lengthy in my discussion of the library, so. Thank you for having me here this evening. It's wonderful to see you. We have a lot going on at the library, as usual. The picture you see here at the beginning of the presentation is our illustrious mayor and two of our staff, the Queen of Hearts and Alice in Wonderland at the British Bash. The British Bash is a new event that we partnered with the Chamber and the Friends of the Library to do a little fundraising. It was a really good time. Oh, this one? Okay. So, my new youth services librarian, that was a joke that I put that picture in there, and then I accidentally sent the wrong one. So, when she gets here next week, do not tell her that I did that. We've had quite a few staff changes at the library. Recently, we filled 3 positions that were very, very needed, one of them being an administrative assistant in the IT department. Thank you, Jesus. We have hired 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time. One of the full-time employees was promoted from within. We do like to promote from within if we can, when we can. Brianna West, that lovely picture there, she started out, she's been with the library for 3 years, and she started out as one of our part-time staff. She was recently promoted to the youth services librarian. That's a perfect choice. She is amazing. She's 19. She's already graduated college with her bachelor's degree in human sciences, which is social work. She works well with all of the staff, and she's born to work with the public. She is a great asset to our team. And I don't want to say too much about her because I am going to bring her to council in the next couple of weeks to introduce her and let her talk about herself a little bit. But she has started a number of programs that we've been wanting to do and didn't have the ability yet. So one of those is our Teen Advisory Board. She couldn't come this evening because she's hosting the Lego League, which is a new program, and then she's interviewing teen applicants to serve on the Teen Advisory Board. One of the major accomplishments that she did as her practicum in school was to design and implement a parenting play shop. The Parenting Play Shop is a program designed to get parents re-engaged with their children away from technology, no devices, communicating verbally, playing together, and to get kids off devices and back to hands-on playing. It's when you say that, it sounds kind of funny, but kids today don't go out and ride their bikes. They don't play with toys, and they don't know how. And parents have lost that ability, some of them, to interact with their kids. And so this program is designed to re-engage them, but also connect them to resources in the community. We have a number of community partners. Dr. Kine's office, they are in attendance. The police department has attended. We've had staff from the volunteer fire department. The Terrell dentist, the new dentist here in town, their staff, Texas Presbyterian Health System, TISD, speech pathologist. It's to get these families connected to the resources in this community that can help them. Nutritionalists, dietitians to help discuss what a well-rounded, well-balanced meal is, because a lot of parents that work, they don't have a lot of time. How do you throw together something that's going to be nutritionally valuable for your child? That's important in growth and development. And it's so funny to think that this program is so popular and it's so in-depth, and it came from an 18-year-old girl. That's pretty impressive to me. And we have a lot of parents who have asked for extensions to the services that she has brought to them in this program. And we're currently working on a grant to help expand that program, because we don't have the budget really to do the things that we would like to do. So we're hoping to get a couple of grants, at least one, to help us with that. And then we're also looking for additional community partners that would like to get involved. We have Dustin Connor has come and talked to the families about emergency management and how to have an emergency plan at home and things like that. So we have the capacity for 20 families, and this semester we had 18. 2 were unable to commit to the 5 weeks, and so they dropped out until they could commit. Camp Bookworm, one of our most popular programs, is our weekly story time for kids aged 0 to 5. In October, we had 221 children attend. We've had over 500 now. The weekly attendance has increased since we reopened after COVID. And with the closing of the Forney Library, our attendance has increased to about 80 kids a week now from 40. We're not complaining. It's difficult, but it's a good thing. We have the Lego League is a new program. We've had 35 kids attend. Because we have been short-staffed, 3 full-time staff members and 1 part-time, we had to cut something. So we cut 1 program. And that was the teen and tween events. Those will start again in the spring, but they didn't really have good attendance anyway, and so it was a natural postponement. And then we are doing story times for our day schools, the Methodist Day School. We'd like to get back in at Presby if we can. And then again, we're working on our teen advisory board. That is going to be instrumental. That board will be instrumental in planning for the new library, ensuring that we meet the needs of that hard-to-reach age group. We do have a makerspace with availability that's coming in 2023, and then we will reinstate our sensory story time for those with sensory disabilities. Okay, programming. We do a lot of programming. We have the Fall Festival. We partnered with the Church of Christ. We had over 500 guests for that. The Parenting Play Shop. We had 18 families. Page Turners, that's our programming for adults 18 and up. We have weekly and monthly classes. In October, we had over 25 programs and 236 attendees, which is outstanding because that is something new that we started after COVID. And our staff member, Janie, bless you, Cardona, she is leading that charge. And she found that if she did programs at lunchtime, adults can attend. And so, bless you. We have several participants that are weekly participants, and they spend their lunch hour with us. So, and they've asked us to continue when we discussed not doing the program or maybe changing it. They asked that we not do that. Some of the special events that we attended, the Fall Festival, we have reading challenges for youth and adults. We have a pumpkin pageant, Read to a Dog. We hosted a veterans breakfast. Thank you, Mayor, for attending with us in Kaufman. We participated in the British Bash, the Holly Jolly Christmas Parade, and some others. So we had from October 1st until December 31st, we hosted over 55 programs with over 1,300 attendees. And I would say that's pretty good when you're doing that with short 3 full-time staff and a part-timer. The fire department, the kids, you can see the pictures there. Those are from our parenting play shop. I encourage you, when they're doing the parenting play shop, to stop by there because they have costumes for veterinarians, firefighters, police, doctors, oh goodness, all kinds of different, there's a store clerk, a nurse, a postman, and then they have little setup so they can put on the costume and then they go work in the post office, and it teaches them how to address an envelope and put it in the mailbox and, you know, your daily tasks that we all do, but we don't think about. Kids don't realize that. They love the firefighters. Imagine that. And they have a little fire engine there where they have, and a hose. I think he's holding the fire hose. And the kids get to interact with the firefighters, which is a really big deal. Our adult education program, this is very exciting. We received a substantial grant this year to expand and grow our program to meet our rapidly growing community, the needs of our rapidly growing community. With the funding, we have expanded our ESL and GED classes to offer an online platform. So we have, because we have limited space and that's full, we have now opened it up to 50 people for GED and then I believe 50 people for ESL online. Our citizenship class starts this month. Our advisory board member, Susie Smith, who is an instructor at TVCC, she will be our citizenship instructor. That is a completely online program, and we have unlimited seats available. We have the North Star Digital Literacy Partnership is a free self-guided online or in-person digital literacy class, and we offer IT certifications at the end. We have an instructor that we can offer an in-person class once a month, and then you can log in anytime. We are offering Senior Planet. That is a service organization specializing in the needs of older adults, but it is to help them learn, work, create, exercise, and thrive in a digital world. So they offer computer classes, they offer education in telemed, health and wellness, yoga, and all kinds of stuff. It's an amazing program, and it's free. It's free for us. Yay. And then we have tutors. We offer one-on-one tutoring. And then Conexus. We have partnered with Conexus, which is a business out off 148. They're behind the Putt-Putt Golf. We offer ESL classes for their employees specifically, and those are in-person classes. And that's currently 10% of their workforce need ESL classes. And that's actually right now, tonight. We're really, really excited to partner with them. The workforce, we're working with them they refer all of their applicants to us for GED. And we help them get their GED and whatever else they need, computer experience, and then get them back in the workforce. Summer reading, that's always exciting. Besides our Dr. Seuss program, summer reading is our biggest program of the year. You can see the numbers there, it's growing. We're not back to pre-COVID numbers, but we're getting there. We assist, it's our job to assist in preventing the summer slide. That's why the summer reading program is so important. It's fully funded by your Friends of the Library Association, as well as local sponsors. We're always looking for new sponsors, and this summer we were hugely successful in recruiting. We have a list there of new sponsors: Platinum Ford, Pediatric Care Clinic in Forney, and then some others here in town. Not all of them are monetary sponsors. A lot of them donated prizes and things that our participants could earn. We are starting the pre-planning process. So we're going to be reaching out. If you know somebody who would like to be a sponsor or you'd like to volunteer with our summer reading program, please reach out to me, and then Brianna will be getting back to you with a save the date card. Let's see, our annual report. We have to submit that every year. I'm going to just let you look through this. If you'd like some more information on these numbers, then I'm happy to provide that. Our service population, as you can see, is right about 60,000. That formula comes from the state. We don't do that ourselves, otherwise it would not be near that high. But we do, because our service population is so high, we are required to meet a higher standard. Part of that was we were open 44 hours per week, and we had to add 4 additional hours. So starting October 1st, we expanded our open hours to 48 per week, and that change was made on Friday. Staff was already on site from 8 to 5 on Friday, so we added 4 additional hours there. 3 hours before. We typically opened at 1, now we open at 10, and then we added an hour from 5 to 6 because every Friday it was a given. Somebody was going to come to the door at 5 o'clock and say, but I just got off work. So the staff voted to add that additional hour at the end of the day on Friday, which I commend them because I'll just be honest, I do not stay from 5 to 6 on Friday. I'm ready to go home. But it has been very beneficial for our patrons because, I guess I didn't put my spreadsheet in there. We have averaged about 550 to 600 people on Friday pre-COVID. And we are right below those numbers now. And so just within the last 3 months, we've already almost reached where we were pre-COVID. So in December, we had about 500 people on Fridays alone. Just during that hour, we added about 100 every other Friday. So we are working on planning for a new library, which I'm sure you're aware. That would have added another additional, at least 10 slides, right, Mr. Rogers? So I saved that for the next council meeting where you'll see me again. We toured as a group Rowlett Public Library, Richardson Senior Center, University Park Public Library, Dallas Public Library Central Branch, and then Chicago Public Library, and there were 3 branches there. Each of those has some attribute that we are strongly considering, or looking into considering for our new library. And so I feel like it was very important that we visit all of them to kind of see the dynamic and what are we missing? What do we not know because we don't know? And so I'll be bringing back to you the information we learned from each of those facilities. We need to make sure that we consider all avenues, that the public is involved in the process so we know exactly what they want and what they need, and we're making the right decisions. I'm a librarian, and so at heart, I know I pretend to do IT, but at heart, I'm a librarian. And my priority will always be the library first. One thing that I learned from all of these combination projects, whether it be library and retail or library and housing, is it gets big quick. It grows. This project can be overwhelming if you don't stay on top of it, but you have to be very careful in your planning or the library, unfortunately, will be overlooked and under-considered. And then you've got this beautiful facility, and it's got all these wonderful parts and pieces to it, but in the end, the library has fallen short somewhere. And I don't say that because I'm being a negative Nancy. I say that because with all of the projects and all of the people we talked to, that was something that, stood out, was the careful planning went so far, and then the library kind of got left behind. And so I want to always be cautious and aware of what we're doing and providing, and I want the library to be first and foremost in our thoughts as we move forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Becca. I agree with you that our library should be functional and take priority. So does anybody have any comments or questions for Becca?
Thank you for your, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's true.
Thank you, Mike, for reminding me about my mic. Becca, there are, the library is busy, lots of programs, lots of bodies, whether it's in building 1, building 2, or building number 3, or going out into the community, inside the city of Terrell or outside the city of Terrell to try to gain some new patrons, right? I'm curious to know, can pick on page turners here for a moment.
Okay.
I see that there's numbers on 25 programs, I'm assuming individual events, and 236 attendees. Is that 236 unique individuals over the 25 programs?
Yes.
So we had nobody was counted twice. There are 236 over 2.
Well, they are if they attend twice. If they come each week, then they're counted individually each week. But each program only, each attendee is counted once.
And that's what I was wondering, how many unique individuals there are per session, or really, I guess, overall that have attended the programs, trying to get an idea of.
It just depends. Some weeks there are 15, 20, 25. Some weeks there are 7. Mm-hmm. And it just depends on, really, it depends on the craft or the activity they're doing. It depends on the time of year. If it's close to a holiday, sometimes we have more attendance because people are off work. Around when school starts, that time period, we tend to see less attendance at some of the programs because everybody's getting ready to go back to school. Everybody's trying to get back in the routine of come home, eat dinner, get ready for bed, get up early, that kind of stuff. So it just kind of fluctuates.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Sounds like learned experiences on what works and what can be shifted or kept. So thank you for that answer. And well, we do have a couple of new programs that we have both married with some of the funding, general funding, and then also from the Friends of the Library donations. I'm curious to know, really from those programs and any of the programs that we have, what are the programs where we have wait lists where we know there's a need, but maybe we don't have the space, we don't have, maybe it's the instructors or staff, if it's to help take care of kiddos. I'd love to hear more about
ESL, GED, citizenship, they all have wait lists. And some of it is because we don't have the space to add anybody else to the classroom. We have 2 classes, ESL classes in our building, and number one, you don't want to overwhelm your instructor. You get too many students, sometimes they're not able to meet all of the needs. And number 2, you only have a very limited space in the building. If you add more people or you added a 3rd class, the noise level is going to interfere. So that's part of why we used the grant that we got this year to expand our online platform so that anybody that felt they could go ahead and get started, that didn't want to wait for an in-person class, they have that option. GED is the other issue. Our Adult Learning Center, We can only accommodate about 15 in that facility. And again, you don't want to overwhelm your instructor. And so with everybody being on different levels, you really don't know where people are coming in until you do some assessments. You don't want to get too many people in that class, or their experience is going to be not as positive, I guess you would say. And so we have some that are waitlisted. So if anybody drops out or decides they need to do something else and then they can come back later, we have them there. Or we offer an online platform for anybody that might want to get started online or see if that works for them. Most of them, they really just want the face-to-face class. They want to be able to interact with an instructor. Our instructors are degreed individuals this year. So our program has really, really grown, and it's changing. The dynamic is changing. It's not all volunteers. It's not 15 people who all live in the same area. It is degreed instructors with people coming from all over the county, outside the county. It's amazing, but we're gonna need more room.
Thank you. I have a couple follow-up questions because I'm curious to see, curious to hear with Connexus, are they helping pay for a portion of the
Yes.
class? Do they bring on do we use one of our instructors to go on site? How does that work?
We do have a dedicated instructor for them, but they did make a donation to the Friends to cover the costs of this class
Okay.
and beyond, whatever is needed. Mhm.
Okay, and I was curious to know that as well because Terrell ISD is also looking to hire an instructor at this time, and in the past they had an instructor that was doing classes, I want to say pre-COVID time, so it seems like it's certainly a need for ESL classes specifically, an instructor for ESL classes. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to work with them, like how we worked with Connexus in terms of instructor or space sharing.
There are some, and we can talk about that more later if you'd like to go into some detail. I don't want to bog down the meeting, but there are some, as far as space, there are some challenges that we face in sharing space with the school district because they have certain requirements and restrictions that the public library cannot and do not have. And so our partnership, we found, was better served in other areas because of the requirements and things like that. And like I said, we can talk more about details and stuff later if you want to about previous partnerships and kind of why we had to go different directions for ESL.
Sure. Those are my questions. I appreciate you providing those answers, and I want to be able to support those programs and services that we are hearing from community members that are in need.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you for presenting today, Ms. Becker. Say it one more time. How many staff members are you short?
None right now.
Okay. I thought I heard 3.
We were, yes,
You
but we
got that taken
hired
care of.
3 people to fill those 3 spots last week.
And you're good with that? Excellent.
I am
was just
extremely
thinking,
good
I'm
with
over
the
the
new
library
IT admin assistant.
I was just laughing, saying I'm over the library board. She said it twice. All right, so I'm glad we got that taken care of. Good job at the library. I'm in there frequently. I think you guys take really good care of our community. This is close and dear to my heart. My parents learned to read as adults. It was very fun and interesting on permission slips. We read them, and they trusted us that we were reading the right thing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And they made the decision. So the library is close to my heart. Reading is fundamental. You talked about sponsorships. Is there a minimum for sponsorships? It's not.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We will take your $5, your $500, or your $5,000.
Is there anything pressing when you look at needs as far as programs that you would really like to see some additional funds or just something? I know you said about the GED, ESL, citizenship. I mean,
Well, those things, the WINGS program is funded by the Friends of the Library.
okay, good,
And that they received a substantial grant this year.
wonderful.
And so I don't think we are going to have any issues there, and that will actually open the Friends up to be able to support us in other ways. We do have some programs that we would like to try to implement this year, but we don't have specific details on, you know, how we're going to go about it. We do have staff now, so we are going to open that door. And I don't know, yes, we can talk about that. I can get you a list of programs that we're looking at and what we might need as far as funding. We are looking for new partners to help us fund those programs, though. We want to get out in the community and do those programs out, you know, with one of our partners. For example, Jakey's Riding Roundup, the equine therapy facility. We partnered with them previously to do sensory story time for youth and adults. We'd like to partner with them again. That there will be some kind of budget implication, but I don't know what that's going to be yet until I see kind of what level of partnership they want to engage in with us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
I have a motion to recess for 5 minutes. Is there a second? Have a second. We will reconvene into our regular meeting, and at this time, discuss fire department update, item 9.2, our Fire Chief Shane LaCroix.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Go ahead.
Come before you this evening to talk about the department's current fleet and proposals to increase that fleet as we move forward. So currently, this is what our fleet looks like. And we have a 2000 engine. That's one of our reserves. We also have a 2014. That's a reserve. 2015, that's in service. 2017 Quint, that's in service. And then we received approval for this year to purchase an engine, which help us, bump things down to where we replace the 2000 model engine. And then an engine for 2024 for the projection of a Station 3. So, a point of clarification I probably need to make for his terminology is that of a fire engine or a fire truck, because I know they're used interchangeably, but sometimes that can be confusing. A fire engine is it has a water tank, has a fire pump that pumps water, it carries fire hose, and it has assortment of hand tools and small ladders. A fire truck, on the other hand, by the exact term of it, it only has an aerial device on it. So a ladder that's attached where you can get elevated streams. But it doesn't carry water tanks or a fire pump, things of that nature. So what they do, they come up with a Quint. The Quint concept takes both the truck and the engine and combines them together. So you have an aerial ladder that also has a water pump on it and carries water, and so that it can pump and roll. It can do everything that the engine can do and that of a truck. Because by their designation, an engine is usually assigned to specific tasks, and then a truck is assigned to different tasks. Usually a truck is assigned as a support for the fire attack. So I explain all that so that when we get into talking about engines and trucks, we kind of know what the difference is between those things. So, a new engine is kind of what this presentation is about in anticipation for the opening of Station 3. So a new fire engine will allow, for the replacement, this is the engine that we've already had approved. It's going to allow us for the replacement of that 2000 model engine that's in reserve. Now, how that works is the new engine goes in as frontline and everything bumps down. So the 2015, 2014, everything bumps down. So that 15 bumps down into reserve status. And we'll still be maintaining the two reserve apparatus, so the 2000 drops off. Which they drop off, we can sell it. So the amount that was budgeted for this year was 1.168. So we put together 6 personnel committee that was formed to look at, what we're going to be looking at for specs, recommendations, and selections. So they decided to go with a SIDS Martin. It's a Pierce Custom Velocity Puck. Puck standing for its pump under cab. So it's new technology. We're looking at a rescue body style. Now this means the engines are a little taller, but it gives us more, the ability to carry more equipment up higher. So one of the things that we've been looking at is the way we've sent some personnel to hazmat school. So now we might be able to start carrying a little bit of that hazmat equipment. So if we have a spill or a leak, we'll be able to contain it. without having to call for help. It's going to have a 1,500 GPM pump on it. It's going to carry 1,000 gallons. So the total cost for the apparatus and loose equipment, and this is due upon delivery, $1.159. So we were below budget on this. The estimated delivery time, or what they call as lead time, is 21 to 22 months. And I know y'all have seen that some in the news about how long it's taking. So ordered to be placed in January, and delivery schedule would be around October, November of 2024, which is FY25. So, there's a growing issue that we're speaking about, is that the supply chain issue, it's even, like I said, it's affecting in the fire service and all the manufacturers. The delivery time or lead time for a new apparatus, taking that 21 to 22 months, which has caused a price increase as well as a doubling of that lead time. All fire departments that need new apparatus or additional apparatus have been negatively affected by the delay. Costs for the apparatus have and will continue to increase substantially over the upcoming years as a result. So we need a proactive strategy, as we move forward to ensure that our service delivery capabilities will not be disrupted. So what does a proactive strategy entail? So it's instead of ordering just one new engine, we get approval to purchase 2 new engines. Now, how will they assist us in our service delivery mission? It will allow us to absorb the extended delivery time and stay within the strategic timeline for opening fire station number 3, as we discussed, in 2025. It will also allow us to take advantage of a multi-engine purchase discount. It will allow us to avoid annual manufacturer price increases. And finally, it will ensure that we have the equipment needed to keep up with the current and forecasted service demands. So let's look at the savings benefits if we do this. The cost benefit for purchasing 2 engines instead of 1 include, so we get a multi-engine discount. It's $24,000. Discount would be applied to that second apparatus. Cost saving associated with that manufacturer's estimated annual price increase per unit, which now is projected to be 20%. This alone is a savings of $180,439,000. So what's the total estimated cost savings by buying 2? It's $204,439. So the breakdown on the cost. Total cost for the first apparatus would be $1.159. The cost for the second apparatus would be $1.124. So the total cost for both engines is $2.283. The above apparatus pricing includes all the accessory equipment, which is loose equipment such as hose, nozzles, ladders, air packs, EMS equipment, extrication tools, all that comes with it. So for each apparatus, that's $204,000 that's added. It comes up with these prices. So together, that's $409,000. So all accessory equipment will be purchased, what we propose in FY23, which is this year. In doing so, will allow us, the manufacturer will store the equipment, so we don't have to look at any kind of price increase for that equipment. But the warranties won't start until we receive the engines. So we're not losing anything by it, and we're not having to store it and keep it here. We're just taking advantage of prices now in anticipation of the increased prices that will come. The conditions of pricing. To receive the reduction in the pricing previously stated, the following conditions must be met. Both engines have to be ordered together to receive the multi-engine discount. A PO or the HVAC contract must be signed by a designated official before the order can be placed. Both engines must be ordered by the end of January to ensure our position in the production line and our delivery dates in November. Payment will not be due until the delivery of the engines projected to occur in November 2024, which is FY25. So our recommendation, staff's recommendation, is allow the city manager the resolution to commit for the purchase of a second fire apparatus that has been planned for fire station number 3 in FY24. So this goes back to the our strategic plan timeline that y'all have heard me speak of, but we'll go back over it. So we order and replace apparatus for our 2000 engine, and that's what we were approved for this year. Order a second apparatus to take advantage of the cost savings for fire station number 3. Acquire the land for fire station number 3. Receive RFQs for fire station build, award contract, concept cost, estimate. And apply for the SAFER grant, which is a staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant, January the 3rd, or this month in January, for 10 additional firefighters who, if we was to get the grant, would be awarded in September 2023. Prepay for all the loose equipment for 2 fire apparatus, which is $409,000, so that we can lock in that price, and we'll have a price increase for next year. FY24, our plan is to begin construction for fire station number 3. If the 2023 SAFER grant was awarded, begin hiring process for the additional 10 firefighters. If the grant is not awarded, to begin the hiring for additional 6 firefighters. And then we'll reapply for the SAFER grant for the remaining personnel needed. FY25, if the 2024 SAFER grant was awarded, begin that hiring process for the additional 6 firefighters. If the grant was not awarded, then begin hiring for the additional 10 firefighters. Receive delivery of new fire apparatus with a price tag at $1.874. And Station 3 opening. I think y'all have seen this before. We have it once again. It's kind of the timeline we're trying to follow to hit these benchmarks. So the ideal with a SAFER in particular is that we try for the most amount of firefighters to hire the first go around, which would be 10. If for some reason we don't get the grant, then we still need to go ahead and hire. That way we can have these individuals ready to roll when the station would be opening in FY25. Be happy to answer any questions.
So let's talk a little bit about, Chief, if you would, the cost of the repairs associated with the 2000 currently in reserve. Is it operational, or is?
Yeah, the 2000, yeah, we have to keep it in a ready state.
So of all of your reserve, I guess you have two, right? The 2014, that's a
And the
reserve
2000.
as well? Are we currently incurring any repair costs on either one of those?
Yeah, I just signed POs before this meeting, so we're up to $41,000 that it's costing us to keep these engines up and running.
Okay. That's the first question, but to give the council a little perspective on what's happening in the market, what's the shortest lead time you've ever seen on a engine for delivery?
Generally not, usually, within a year you can receive an engine in.
Yeah.
But here since COVID, everything's doubled up.
Right. Well, so I would argue maybe one of the strategies, an exit strategy that we might have, if we went ahead and placed the order for 2 trucks. If you weren't in a position to take the second truck, man, I bet you could sell it at that time to a department that's in need of a truck, right, and get your money out of it, if you had to.
I guess
You wouldn't want to, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if you needed to.
Yeah, because we have to enter into a contract for them to.
We would
Start
buy
that
it. I'm just
process.
saying
Yeah.
for future council.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that could be.
It's not a bad thing to have, is delivery of 2 trucks, if you're able to pay for it. Mike, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, that's certainly an exit plan if you had to have a problem. My comment for you is that, we have American Recovery Plan funds necessary to cover the $400,000 number that Chief showed you. So really, the resolution you're going to see in the next agenda item is all about the phasing, about how we would get that done. And so that's just, this agenda item was for the overview, and the next agenda item is the resolution associated with authorizing moving forward.
So the 41,000, are you spending that per month on the engine?
No, that's been since this budget year, so October 1.
So October to January, you spent 41,000, so about 10,500. We got 12 months, 120,000.
It would be nice if we could figure it that way, but one of the price tags was what was it, $26,000 that we just had to do because the transmission went out on one of them.
Well, I hear there's months that's higher and there's months that's lower, but we've spent 41,000 since October, right?
That's correct.
And this is my concern too. I know we have a budget and $1 million, what was that second engine? 1.12?
Yes.
Okay. So we've approved our budget, and I'm gonna probably be asking the city management or the secretary. I wanna look from October 1. When we look at our budget we approved, I'm gonna be looking at items we approved, because I wanna start to tally that up. Maybe this is the first one, maybe it's the 10th one. But man, I get it. So we're doing this because we're gonna build a fire station number 3, right? Or we just, so when are we gonna start building that?
Well, the idea is to start that process this budget year, finding the land and acquiring the land. So we're in that process now, looking.
So you think we may start building in 2 years?
No, I think it'll have to be sooner than that.
So the general timetable on that is one of the last PowerPoint slides that it's the really complicated slide at the end. But the idea was, we've been negotiating on a piece of land that's roughly at the spot where we need our 3rd fire station. We're hopeful that we'll be able to conclude those negotiations, and we feel like we've got a funding source available for that in this year. We also are working on the engineering and the architecture associated with the site. We'll be back to you guys in the summer months talking about, are we comfortable moving forward with the price tag of building the building? So obviously that's a budget decision you guys haven't made yet, And this summer would be the time to really look at that and hone in and make that decision about, okay, are we going to be comfortable borrowing $8 million, $10 million, $12 million to build fire station number 3? We see it on the horizon. We think that we've got adequate INS capacity to do that station. And then that's where the additional cost of the firefighters comes in as well. When you see Shane LaCroix talk SAFER grant, what you're talking about there is 100% funding for a 3-year period for the staffing. So we like that a lot, right? So if we get the SAFER grant, then the staffing is reimbursed by the federal government 100%. So that's an important grant for us, and in a future council meeting, you'll be asked to vote on authorizing us to go forward with that. You stagger the addition of those firefighters, so you're not trying to train 16 people all at one time, right? But basically 16 bodies is what you need to run a fire station. And so what Shane's trying to do here is to say, okay, step by step, do we really have all of this? The only decision you've made and voted on in your budget thus far is in this year's budget, you set aside $1.1 million for a new fire engine to be paid for out of American Recovery Plan funds. That's the budget decision you already made for the FY23 budget. When we were analyzing the pool slide topic here recently, I kind of flagged for you that it would be impossible for us to spend $1.1 million on a fire engine during this fiscal year because you only pay for it when it's delivered, right? So the $400,000 that Shane mentioned to you fits within our $1.1 million budget item. $700,000 went off to a different use. $400,000 would be available in the FY23 budget for the equipment issue. So on this very bottom slide right here, you got that 409. That's the dollar amount Shane's talking about. Can we use in this year's budget to order the two? You don't actually have to have the money available until FY25 for the 2 engines because you're only paying for those at delivery. So staff would be back to you in the, let's call that the summer of 2024, discussing exactly what financial strategy we might want to use at that time for the $1.8 million, almost $1.9 million for the payment we would have to make in November of 2024. And as Shane mentioned, that's your FY25 budget. I'm confident by the time that we get to our FY25 budget, we'll be able to have a ready source of paying that because frankly, we'll probably be paying that much. The debt service on that and the annual cost of maintaining those vehicles, that's going to be a wash at that point. So we're very confident that this is the right vehicle strategy. Having those 2 vehicles is good whether we're still in 2 fire stations or whether we're in a 3rd fire station. I'm going to raise my hand and tell you I think that we will be at the point of having that 3rd fire station open on the schedule Shane's got in this extremely complicated graph here. But that is a future budget decision. I'll be really clear about that. You guys will have to vote to issue debt to build fire station number 3, and that's a decision that won't be in front of you until later this summer.
Okay, I'm just,
Well, just looking at this too, so what I'm understanding as well is if we wait on that 2nd fire engine, in addition to the time frame, it's gonna, the cost for it would increase by probably at least 20%, which would be at least another $225,000.
Yeah, it'd be 1.3 million for the engine instead of what we're projecting here is, 1.2.
Right. And it seems to make sense to me that if we're going to go ahead and we think we're going to move forward with the fire station based on this graph, we would be getting the engine about the time it's completed, which makes sense. You don't want to have a fire station with no engine in it.
That's why this does look cumbersome or whatever, but it's trying to line everything up so that it hits where you don't have a delay in one or the other. So when the station's built, you want that engine to be ready to go. You want your firefighters already trained and ready to go as well. Because you just don't hire 15 guys and throw them in the fire station and say, good luck with all that. They have to go through a probationary period, or at least get halfway through it, where we're training the guys. They're starting to become part of the team, and then we divide up from there and then assign people, to that firehouse.
So does that give us sort of like what you were saying about the equipment coming out of this year's budget? It sounds like we would almost have 2 more budget cycles to figure out how to finish paying for those engines, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I would have loved to have this conversation and this foresight 3 months ago, but maybe we just didn't see it and we didn't have it in mind. And it's kind of difficult to figure out how to pay for it. Man, that Safer Grant sounds like it's God sent. But the thing that worries me about it is the if in front of it. It has really carried us. It has helped us kind of even things out. But this is not like asking for a receptionist or maybe a firefighter, or it's just like maybe 1.2 million is not that much. It doesn't have that much impact on our budget. But maybe, hindsight's always 20/20, but I would have loved to have heard this in September, October, because I think we could have changed some things in the budget. We're here now again, so,
Yeah, some of this we wasn't made aware of until we went through the process of doing the specking out for the engine that we've got. And then as we were doing that, that's when it came up with, well, if we purchased 2 instead of 1, what kind of savings would that be? And that's when we got into the nuts and bolts of it.
So right now, it's discussion amongst, with our staff. So if you have anything that needs to be directed toward Chief LaCroix or Mr. Sims, this is.
Right, and I would just let you know, consistent with our normal practice, this is material from your 3-year strategic plan. Parts of this presentation were provided, or this slide that we're currently looking at was provided in the spring of 2022. So we're trying to follow through on our strategic plan to build 3rd fire station. And then the process moving on from here is that we are discussion only tonight. In the next agenda item, Shane will go through the resolution. Then Shane will be back, ask you for a resolution to pass associated with the Safer Grant request, because of course that's only a request at this time. And then later in the year, we'll be looking at consulting cost with the architecture and engineering associated with the fire station. There'll be a purchase of the land associated with the fire station, and there'll be the building associated with it, which again, that would be a debt question for us to discuss in the summer of 2023.
So Mike and Mayor, before we move on to the next item, this is a cumbersome slide to look at. When I looked at it a couple of months, I had to ask a couple different questions, and it's easier the more you get to see and study the slide. And there are a couple of ifs, right? If we move forward with the building of the fire station, which we've, I recognize that we've seen the studies and we know the growth that is coming and where there may be lack of service, or not lack of service, but maybe response times may go down and might affect
maintain our ISO rating.
Yes, thank you. ISO rating is what I was trying to get to. That affects those that are purchasing insurance. The west side of the city of Terrell is growing. Other parts are growing as well, but we have a lot of developments that have been approved. Or I'll be careful with my words here. We have a handful of developments that we have worked through and are coming, whether it's for approval or planning phases. So I recognize that there's a need there long-term to make sure that we are staffed and the safety is kept on top of mind. But we also have, different voting processes, approval processes that will have to go forth, as Mike indicated, whether it's in the summer, or additional contracts, for building, as well. And what I'm hearing is that this recommendation is coming forward today because of the plan, that we reviewed to have the fire station number 3 built based on the completion date of between March through April of 2025, due to both supply chain issues, price increases. We don't anticipate price increases to go down anytime soon, most likely continue to increase like a lot of the other goods, that are continuing to increase. I have 2 questions. One is a question for Mike in terms of the projects, building projects that we've seen in the city or that we've heard other cities are experiencing. If building projects are having a delay at this time due to maybe supply chain issues and staffing. And then I have a question for Chief as well to make sure I understand the warranty. Does the warranty start upon delivery of each apparatus and the loose equipment that goes with them, or does the warranty only start upon receipt for the loose equipment? Let's say we move forward with the with fire station number 3 and building out, and because of building delays, maybe it doesn't get built out until the end of 2025 for some reason. Would they hold those apparatuses and start the warranty when we're ready to receive them?
Yeah, they go by what they project. So if the order's made, the longest it would go would be 23 months. So the warranties wouldn't start until that 23rd month.
Until the 23rd month. Okay, so it's
Yeah, so we should have delivery of the apparatus.
frame by the end of that 23rd month that is indicated in the contract.
Yes,
and
we have.
that's when the warranty starts for the apparatus.
Yeah, it's in the contract for the apparatus, but we also requested a second contract for the loose equipment to make sure that those items were warranted as well, starting out when upon delivery of the apparatus, and they sent us that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
So on the question that came my way, I would say that step 1 in answering is, I would say that we need this fire station because of today. I think that's an important point of view to have. If I look at fire station number 1, fire station number 2, calls for service, runs, all that sort of thing, and I ask myself, are we 50% busier than we were 10 years ago when we also only had fire station 1, fire station 2? Well, that's an easy answer, right? So we have every year had enough growth over the last several years to say, yeah, we are generating a number of runs that are putting us occasionally in what I would call an unsafe position. I've got fire station 2 deployed somewhere. I've got fire station number 1 deployed somewhere. I have another call. I need more firefighters in another place in town right now because there's an emergency right now. And that happens more and more. And so I would say I don't need to justify fire station number 3 based on future growth. It's a right now problem that we need. The next thing I would say is, are we going faster or slower with development than we were a year ago or 2 years ago? It's rather hard to put your finger on that. Most of the developers that we talk to look at this period of time with slightly higher interest rates and say, hey, great, now I can get wood, or now I can get that HVAC unit, or now I can get those doors that I had on order. So we're hearing a lot of, okay, now I finally can get appliances, I can finish that building unit. When I talk to the folks who are going to build at North Spur or Arboretum Estates or the Preserve or any of the other ones, you know, the message we're getting is that development is just going to keep rolling and keep going, and it's going to go fast. So, you know, yes, development will keep going quickly, and yes, we already need it, I guess, are kind of the short versions of that answer.
We've had, well, just in a year, from last year's numbers, we've went up 16% in our call volume. we're approaching 5,000 calls for service. And when I came here in 2018, it was like 3,200 calls, and now we're already up to 5,000 calls. And and the numbers are going to continue to go up. When land gets annexed, we immediately have to respond in those areas. So one of the things that Mike was speaking of is the overlapping calls. When I send y'all that monthly report, it has a percentage for overlap. And I think one of the times when I went before y'all with that, I said, pay attention to that number, because that's a very important number. That means how many times we have both apparatus out and a third call drops. Luckily, we have battalion chiefs now, right? So I have somebody I can turn loose to go to that call. Prior to battalions, we didn't have that. Just nobody went. Nobody could go. You had to call for mutual aid. So it was either Forney come in or the volunteers or whatever. So right now, for when both apparatus are up, we're around 42 to 43% of the time that third call drops. We're working with dispatch now to look at when that, not the third call, but the fourth call drops, because we're getting those now. What's that percentage? So we can keep an eye on it to see when it goes up. So I think whether we want to or not, we got to grow, or we're not going to be able to maintain the service that we need to the citizens of Terrell. We got to be able to have apparatus that we can, that's reliable, that we can respond on, because one of the problems we have now, when a piece of equipment goes down, it don't just go down, it goes away to be repaired. So sometimes simple things, they could be gone a week, and so we're in something else. We talk about the 2000 model engine. They don't have air conditioning. Some of the guys are in it for a bulk of the time. But it runs and it pumps water, so we keep it. So we need to be able to start bumping this stuff down so we have reliable backups. The 2015 that's in service now, it's one of the ones that we're doing a lot of the maintenance on. Well, when this new engine comes in, it gets to bump down to reserve, so it's not being used near the amount of time that it is now. And so that's going to be less wear and tear that we have to put out on it. Because we have them on a preventative maintenance schedule. So as long as we keep that schedule up, usually we can catch things before they get real bad. But, we're putting a lot of miles on these apparatus, and they're bouncing up and down the road. So things are going to break, even if they're new, they're going to break. Just hopefully they don't break near as much. So that's kind of where we're at. So this is kind of all that spin on the one slide, so you can kind of see and try to follow. It's kind of hard to say just to put one little part of it without putting all the others, because it's a cause and effect type deal, right?
Chief, when you talked about, it could happen on the new ones, the good thing is they're under warranty.
That's right.
Versus
Yep.
coming out of our pockets. So yeah,
Right.
we're down an engine, but we're not out the money. We're not out the dollar value, versus having to have it down and be out the money.
And part of this price that y'all see, that includes an extended warranty on both those apparatus. So the manufacturer warranty is usually a year, so we've extended that to another year. So
Mayor, I just want to also throw in here as we're discussing this, I want to use this slide to say a couple of things I think are really important on this slide. The most important budgetary moment shown on this slide is actually when the SAFER grant period ends, right? Because that means if we get that grant for 10 firefighters, man, we are happy. Totally agree with what Councilwoman Thomas said. We are happy the moment we get that grant, but we know 3 years later, then that rotates off, and we've got to put that in our M&O budget. Same thing with the second round. Let's be optimistic. Let's say we get SAFER grant once and then we get SAFER grant twice. That's awesome. But we need to know that those grants will end. And when we're looking at FY27 and FY28, those are some big budgetary periods, right? So we'll be mindful of that. We'll be trying to make sure that we can handle that in our budget planning and looking out for that. Jay Ayers will be sweating bullets back there trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to manage that? But remember, that to me is even if I'm an optimist and I look at this and say, rah, I'm going to get those grants, I still have to look at the end of the grant period and say that's going to be tough doings for our budget at that time. The other thing I would say, if I put on my pessimist hat, is something that's not on this page, and that is that every day I get more pessimistic about the ability of our nearby agencies to provide that coverage. Mutual aid sounds great, but when you've got traffic problems surrounding you, and you know that your formerly cooperating agencies can't get to you quickly, mutual aid does not mean the same thing for this city that it did 5 years ago, because it is a lot harder to get from our neighbors to us than it was 5 years ago. And they also have the exact same problem of, well, they're out on calls. They're having those difficulties just the same way we are. So I worry about this not just in terms of can we do what we're doing, but I also look at this and say we're a little bit more out on an island than we used to be. And it's just public safety to be mindful of that island problem we've got.
One last thing on the safer that I know it's on my mind, and I think it needs to be under consideration as well, is they're under sunset right now. So we didn't find out till just here lately that there was even going to be a safer for this year. So now that there is, we're not sure of the funding on it yet, but we'll get that information. But next year, there's no guarantee that there will be a safer, because it'll continue to be voted on until they decide how they're going to move forward with it. So, so again, trying to take advantage of what we can when we can. But, hopefully it'll be around for a while.
Yeah, I also want to think about that too. What if the market changes and then you don't have this long waiting period? I don't know if we've had this long waiting period for 6 months, 2 years.
I think just to clarify, the safer that has nothing to do with the apparatus. Safer is all about personnel.
No, what I'm talking about is, I know we're trying to get in here and get the 2-for-1 with the percentage and the change and the saving to get 2-for-1, but it's 1 point whatever $1 million. What if it doesn't take 2 years here in 6 months or 8 months to get you that apparatus?
Oh, I'm hoping that's what the
we
case.
need to think about that as well, instead of just, oh, we're in just a terrible, so I'm just thinking about it just from both ends, from both standpoints. I just want to make sure that we are fiscally responsible. This is the second year that a big item like this has been moved. It's just, we got to just be careful, and that's all I'm saying. If we err, we err. If we err, and I mean, I guess it can go both ways. I guess we can save some money, and then we can be in the hole, and then we can be real cautious at the end of the fiscal year. But I'm just the voice that thinks about that. I worry about it, not only for this council. I mean, it's just even my budget. I want to know kind of where I am. I know there's things going to come up, but I want to have some type of reserve or sense of, so things can look better for us too when it talks about getting our apparatus. So I'm just, it's just something for me to think through. I'll probably be talking to you and just asking more questions. But I'm concerned, and I think people know that. So doesn't mean I'm anti-growth. Does not mean I'm anti-third fire department, anti-firefighter. I'm not. I'm just being cautious so we don't have to do that at the end of the year.
And I agree with it, being cautious. That's one of the reasons I'm coming before y'all, because I'm being cautious, because I'm concerned that I don't want to have a break in our service. So, we can only provide the service that the city's willing to pay for. And we want that to be the best service that we can provide.
Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that for this year, it's not going to have a negative impact on our budget this year. Actually, it's a positive impact, because instead of paying out $1 million this year, we're only paying out a little bit less than $500,000.
Yeah, on our end, yes.
Isn't that right?
Roughly, yes, yeah.
The big impact's actually going to be the next year and the next year after that, the next 2 years.
As far as apparatus, it'll be in FY25.
Right.
If I'm not on this council anymore and I created a hardship with my decisions, I'm been in Terrell my whole life. My parents are buried here. I'm still going to feel bad in 2028 if a decision I made today negatively impacted the city and the future council members and the future city managers and the staff. That's just me. Nobody don't have to think like that. That's probably crazy looking ahead at that, but that's just me, and that's my voice. And thank you for your presentation today, and I'll be talking to you to ask more questions about some things. Thank you so much.
No, I would certainly agree with, you know, the decisions we make, that the budget and budget amendments are one of the most important decisions that we make, because it does lay out the programs and the services that we provide, whether it's people, whether it's staffing, whether it, people staffing, same thing, right? But the tools that are needed to get the programs and the service being completed. So, yeah, I think it's very important to be physically responsive, and then also make sure that, you know, as a council, we agree, like we have done in budget years, on where we plan to expend our money, and what that 3-year or 10-year strategic plan looks like, and make sure that we are revisiting, as we have, to make sure we're still on the same course. And while we don't expect to always receive grants from the federal government, man, I do hope that, I'm wondering if they have any grants or have considered having grants in the past for apparatuses that we could apply for, if that's some feedback that we can give to our congressmen on, you know, and see where that goes.
Yeah, if you remember Councilman Royce, he was big on the grant, and so we went through that process. And even though we'll be replacing a 2000 model piece of equipment, what we're really replacing is a frontline piece of equipment that's a 2015. So there's departments out, that's not a very old piece of equipment when you're looking at terms of replacing. So when they grade you on those type grants, what they're looking at is who's in more need. So you got departments out there running around with 20-year pieces of equipment that's running front line, and then we have a 2015, which is 8 years old. So we don't rate very high when it comes to those type grants for that. And if we tell them that we're replacing the 2000 model reserve, then again, we're really not going to rate high, because they're looking at people that are driving around in, you know, that frontline piece of equipment. So, yeah, grants are great.
I would just say that to the extent that we can possibly do grants, we always try to do grants. The fire grant that we were successful in, that 2 of them come to mind. One was a federal grant to get some brush fire apparatus. So I think that was around $400,000 to get brush fire apparatus. And then we got a grant through the North Central Texas Council of Governments here recently to get some traffic safety equipment.
Blocking.
That's very expensive equipment. So it's helped us in other areas. It just doesn't necessarily rise to, you know, it would be perfect for what we've got here in front of us.
Council, my desk-mate Councilwoman Reese mentioned that, and correct us if we're wrong here, but those grants for apparatuses tend to go to volunteer fire departments as opposed to city.
That's correct. I mean, that's what you see a lot of, but there, you know, it's kind of like I told Councilman Royce, you know, I'm in the fire service, so I want to make sure that they go where they need to go. And, you know, it's a safety issue, so you got volunteers driving around in very old pieces of equipment, whether, you know, it's a risk to them and to the public safety and to who they're trying to protect. So I agree that's where they need to go.
Okay. Anyone else for Shane? Thank you, Shane.
Right.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda?
Yes, that would be to...
9.3?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And that is resolution number 2053.
Hey, Shane. Shane, remember the next item is the resolution.
Which
So
would be a resolution for discussion, which I guess we've been doing. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, approving the purchase of 2 Pierce Velocity Pumper fire trucks through the HGAC Cooperative Purchasing Program authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute all documents necessary for the purchase of 2 fire trucks for the Terrell Fire Department and establishing an effective date. Again, a discussion item only.
Yeah, it's not a consideration.
So Shane, I'll just take this real quick so we can go through it. The idea is that this resolution will be on your agenda next week. And we want you to think about it, ask Shane questions, call Shane, go to the fire station, talk to Shane, let him show you whatever you want to do to learn more about it. That's great. Section 1, fire chief is authorized to move forward with the purchases. I'm authorized to negotiate and execute all the necessary documents for the purchase of the 2 fire trucks. You got a not to exceed dollar amount there of the total between the two. And again, what we mentioned, you'll have a little over $400,000 out of this year's budget, the remaining out of future year budgets. So that's the resolution template we have, and when we're buying this through the purchasing cooperative of HGAC, that's our way of getting the lowest possible price here, because the Houston-Galveston Area Council has already kind of beat down the pricing as part of their cooperative purchasing program. We've joined a lot of those cooperative purchasing programs, and that's one of the oldest in the state, and they do a good job keeping prices down.
Well, I want to ask Chief real quick. Is there a timing of when you need to have the order placed to receive the discount? What was that date?
It's by the end of this month in January. In order for us to hold the position in line, the production.
Right.
So for the manufacturer to hold that, we need to get it to them by the end of January.
Yeah. So again, council, that was the purpose of going over it tonight, and then giving you a week to get with the chief to see where you are on this item. So, all right. Thank you, Chief. Next.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, 9.4, discuss resolution number 2054, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Terrell, Texas, approving the Second Amendment to the Utilities Installment Purchase Contract for the purchase by the City of Terrell of a portion of the Lawrence Water Supply Corporation facilities and certificate of convenience and necessity, and establishing an effective date.
Mayor and Council, I'm going to forego my complicated graph and because of the time that we have here, but it was going to be great. Very quickly, Lawrence Water Supply Corporation is a CCN holder, Certificate of Convenience and Necessity, provides water on the east end of town along Highway 80. And about half of their customers, a little over half of their customers, are inside the city limits of Terrell. One of the programs we have that we're trying to work on is to get the CCNs, or the right to sell water, in all of the portions of the city limits, both in the city limits now and those that will be in the city limits in the future when that comes. And so we had an agreement with the Lawrence Water Supply Corporation to acquire that portion that's inside the Terrell city limits. We got really creative and really smart. We came up with a program where we were going to basically leave them in operation, because we didn't really want to take over the operation of that system anyway. We didn't want to affect their customers. So we're going to do dual certification. Certification comes from the state of Texas through the Public Utility Commission. And then also we're going to lease that back. And most or all of you remember that. You approved that. We went to the PUC, and they didn't really appreciate creativity. They want to do the same thing the same way every over and over and over and over. So tonight, what we're talking about is going back and just doing it a new way, which is the old school way, which is don't worry about Lawrence, but just take it away from them. Agree to a price, which we've done previously, and go through that process. And so this is the Second Amendment. That's why we're going through a third version. Just this afternoon, I said a third version to the General Manager, Gary Holcomb, over at Lawrence. They are verbally in agreement with what we're talking about doing, and we will come back to you next week or week after for approval of this resolution. And then towards the end of this month, or maybe sometime in February, we'll come back to you again with an operating resolution, operating agreement. And so it'll kind of be like we were going to do with the lease back, so that they will still be able to stay in operation. Because we will use them to operate the system that we acquire. But for now, we're just going to acquire the system old school, because it turns out the PUC of Texas is not really big on creativity, even though we did come up with a really good plan that everybody was happy with except for the state. And that's all I have. I could talk longer, but I'd rather not.
Anybody have any questions?
And Jay still has his turn, so.
Okay. Nope. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Our next item on the agenda is discuss financial report. This is our Director of Finance, Housing, Marcus Harris. You got 2 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
And Mayor.
Let's cut it down to one.
As Jay's the last item on the agenda, I can say Jay is going to hit home runs.
You take all you want.
And the handout you have is what Jay is going to be speaking from. So you find at your desk a page that starts with the word general fund. That's what Jay will be speaking from. Take it away, Jay. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor and council, present to you the year-end FY 2022 financial report. First, I want to thank Shelley for putting this together. We have a lot going on in finance, so I had to change around some duties, so she actually took this on for us, and I appreciate her for that. First, we can start off by looking at the general fund. As you can see, revenues, we practically met what we were expecting to get in revenues from a budgetary standpoint. Sales tax came in significantly higher than the prior year, roughly $3 million or more. That's what I'm thinking off the top of my head from FY21. And for the general fund, we had a net income which exceeded what we were projecting for the budget at $1.2 million for FY22. We had budgeted net income of $977,000, so we exceeded expectations right there. The beginning fund balance, we were sitting at 5.4, and the ending fund balance is sitting at $6.6 million. And just touch on fund balance. Fund balance is not only cash, but that includes your assets minus your liabilities. So that's just not cash. Just to get that straight. You can go to the next page of the financial report, and we can take a look at the utility fund. The projected revenues, the budgetary revenues for the utility fund was $17.8 million. At year end, it actually came at 19.6, significantly higher than what was budgeted. And for expenditures, it was right on par at $17.5 million, and we had budgeted $17.6. We had a net income of $2 million, and that's going to get tagged onto the overall fund balance, which brings us to $8.6 million, which significantly increases the fund balance and gets us closer to our goal of 120 days of fund balance reserve. On the following page, we have the stormwater utility fund. The year-to-date actual for FY22 was $1.382 million. We budgeted $1.325 million, a little over there, with expenditures at $797,000. Not much compared to what we had budgeted, and we carry over $585,936. That's going to be added onto the fund balance, increasing that fund balance to $2.113 million. The equipment replacement fund is right on par with the budget, just about a little over, and the ending fund balance for FY 2022 is $248,581. The information technology fund is doing extremely better. I think when I first took over, it was significantly in the red, but it's getting closer to the green, as we like to call it. And the ending fund balance is still in the negatives, but it's a lot better than what it was, and it's at a negative $135,491. The Parks and Downtown Improvement Corporation, a component unit of the city, handles a lot of the parks and downtown projects. They're sitting real well at 2.451 million. They carried over a net income of $717,834 from FY 2022. And then you have the tiers, number one, it's part of your Terrell Market Center and 148 development that's going on in that area. Right now, that fund balance is sitting at 1.272 million, which is good. That's money that can be used for additional development in that area. The Power Center, which is like to call a subset of the tiers, which is geared more towards the lighting in that area, funding those projects, and it is sitting at a fund balance of $292,390, which is pretty good for the Power Center going forward. I think overall we did pretty good in FY 2022, going into FY 23, and we have in the future there's going to be a lot of changes, especially with the implementation of this new software. We've been spending a lot of time on that, just bringing that aboard, and we plan on bringing, because it kind of took us off schedule whenever we first started the implementation process, but here moving forward, we plan on being more consistent with these financial reports and get them to you all as we move around duties from myself to my staff, and hopefully we can add additional staff. We have a accounting position currently open. If you know of anybody, please tell them to apply, so we can, move forward with the finance department and make it in a more modern finance department. So,
when do you anticipate that we'll be able to have the software updated and financials on a regular basis?
Financial reports, I actually have Shelley. The spreadsheet that we've used in the past is more data entry. We're actually, because all of us were pretty knowledgeable on expediting that process with formulas and things of that nature. So our goal is to be able to export data files from Harris Financial, the legacy system, actually dropping those files into Excel spreadsheets. So that way it's just a matter of us dropping that data file into the Excel spreadsheet and it just populating and creating these financial reports without us, spending a lot of time on data entry and making sure things pair up with what's in the financial system, financial software system.
This is end of year for 2022, but we're already in our first quarter.
Yeah, yeah.
When's that report?
Shelley, she's already completed October and November. Today, Mr. Sims wanted me to present the FY 22 year-end stuff, and we will present October and November's together soon. So, yeah.
Well, and then on the utility fund, we were targeting 120 days.
Yeah.
Where are we now?
We're close. I believe the last time I looked at it, it's like 100 and maybe 140 days or something like that. It's pretty close though.
So I guess I've heard it from both sides of the dais about the concerns that they have with some of the costs moving forward, especially with the apparatus purchases of the fire department.
Yeah.
I think if we had a better picture of where we were financially, it might help a little bit.
Yeah.
In their decision making. So if you can get that to them, man, I'd appreciate it. I would ask all of the council members, if there's something you need to look at to help you in that decision making process, please reach out to Jay, and I'm sure he'll get that to you.
Yeah.
But thank you for the presentation. Does anybody have any comments, questions for Jay?
Go ahead. I went last time. You go ahead first.
You'll have the October, November report before we have to, that's not a good question.
sounds like some of our feedback or questions are kind of around the same feedback. That I'll be transparent here and say I was looking for a Q3 financial report because we hadn't received a financial report. So maybe that's my bad on not being detailed enough on what I was looking for. The financial reports and say this to Mike and to council and Jay, it are one of the most important things for me to have as a council member. I know we ask for a lot in terms of programs and whether there are increases in salaries or tools, streets, whatever we choose to advocate for our districts and city overall. But the financial reports are really important for me as a council member to see how we're doing financially, where we're expensing our funds and on projects that we have approved and hope to see fulfilled, and want to be able to say hooray to our residents and hey, that project is moving forward, or hey, we're having to make some realistic or having to provide community members some feedback about, well, I might not be able to fulfill a request that a neighborhood may have had because we have other priorities that have come to light that maybe we didn't expect for, and that's part of being financially physically responsible and maybe erring on the side of caution during budget time. So I missed part of your feedback on the barriers to get us the financial report, and really I'm saying that more so to Mike as our city manager. So I am asking that we continue, we get back to try to provide, get through the projects that we need to get through to make sure that the software that I know your department really needed, all departments that we have obtained it for, have them implemented to make those workflows easier for departments that needed those, and then get back to a routine of having these financial reports, even if it's, well, I enjoy seeing you here every month, Jay, to report, or maybe a staff member. Sometimes I just would like to see the report come through in my email and then ask questions as needed.
I'm going to say understood, and we'll take that direction, absolutely.
And you're a smart young man. We need to know if there's some barriers or something that we can assist you with.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. And
If you don't tell us,
yeah.
we're not going to address it, and we're going to move on.
Yeah.
But you're a smart young man, I believe. I think you can do the job. But when you hear this, and everybody hears it, you know what they think.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, as a concerned council member, you need to let us know if there's barriers or concerns.
Yeah.
Just lay it out for us.
Yeah.
We need to try to assist with that if we can. If we can't, we need to tell you that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard it before, and it's not, I don't know if it's looking like, okay, it's looking like, man, the financial guy,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if whatever you need us to do or to help with that, but if you got everything you need and it's still looking like that, it's not good.
Yeah, it's really and truly, I will say, and it's even the discussion that I had with the interim finance director when she was here, Mikhail. Even with housing, just housing alone, I was at work, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I didn't leave, and I would come back to work the next day and be back at work at 8 a.m. Whenever she left our discussion, what she said is, Jay, you're gonna need some help, because we're looking at how much amount of time that she spent doing finance. And
So I need to, point of order, on the agenda, this isn't to shut you down. I want to hear what you got to say.
Okay.
But we need to put it on the agenda as a discussion item. Right
Okay.
now, what we're discussing is the financial report.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
'cause-
not, but you know,
Yeah.
Tuesday, you can make the request then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But right now, we need to discuss the financial report. It's
Okay.
not,
Yeah.
hey, Jay, it's not a personal thing.
Yeah, it's not, well, I was
make that
just,
very
yeah,
clear.
yeah, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you said that, I thought that was more of a question, so I just, yeah, so, yeah, yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
yeah,
Just putting it out there.
okay,
Maybe we don't have to talk about the past people, all that.
yeah,
What do we need to do now so we don't keep hearing this?
Yeah.
So let's keep it financial now. That's what I'd like. And the other request is what do we need to do to get that on the agenda?
Yes,
okay,
I'll be talking to you.
Yes, ma'am.
To see what we need to do.
We'll get it on
All
there.
right, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
So, yeah, no, I mean, really, so does anybody have any questions on the financial report?
Pat, I do have a question, an additional question. So, and help it educate me here if I'm saying this wrong, Jay. So for 2023, when we projected having X amount of dollars for the overall budget, were we accurate in that projection, or did we have more money roll over for any fund balances from the year before, or maybe it was less money that rolled over from the fund balance? Do you recall?
Are you talking about FY, you're saying FY '22 or FY '23? Because you said,
23,
okay.
yeah.
FY '23, on the general fund side, we had money that actually carried over. That net income actually adds on to your fund balance. So that
For
carries
this
on
year. So
into
then that would be
FY
plus,
'23,
like,
exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah.
5 million for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
so,
Well, thank you
Andrew,
for
did you
appeasing
have
my,
something?
thank you for appeasing my last
good?
question.
yeah,
Jay, thank you so much for your report.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
appreciate it. Our next item is, we're not going to have an executive session, so we are adjourned. Thank you, council.